I'm Jim Fram. I'm President and CEO of the Hot Springs Metro Partnership in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We run a pretty traditional program that encompasses business attraction, business retention, working with existing companies, existing businesses to grow. Our mission is new job creation and new capital investment into the local economy. I like helping people find their niche in life, their career, and we do that by creating primary jobs in the market. And it's been a great experience being able to do that. This may not be the place to get off on a story. I've been in this business nearly 30 years, so there's lots of stories. But my wife and I were in a grocery store one night, and we had just landed a pretty big project in the community that I worked in. And a lady came up and asked, she had seen my photo in the paper and my name, and she came up and asked me who I was, and I confirmed that I was the guy running the economic development organization. And she, nearly in tears, said, you know, my husband's been out of work for 18 months, and he was one of the new people they just hired at that place the other day. You know, that's kind of a gooey, feel-good thing, but when you go home and think about that, it makes all the politics and everything really worth it. When I got out of school, worked for Southwestern Bell, very active in JCs and doing some other things, I observed a guy running our local chamber. The guy's name was Lee Zachary. He's deceased now. He had been with the chamber there nearly 40 years, and just kind of watched the way he moved around the community, the way he interacted with other business people, some of the things he did to help attract people into the community, and kind of got me to thinking down that road. And then a few years later, when the opportunity presented itself, I was able to jump into this business and actually jumped in on an interim temporary basis, and that was, like I said, 30 years ago. You know, the biggest challenge, and I think anybody in this profession would say this, is funding. There seems to never be enough funding to not just do incentive, but to do infrastructure, to develop buildings, to develop industrial parks, to develop infrastructure. All of that takes a lot of dollars, and it just seems like there's never quite enough just to do everything with that you wanted to. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges. The other challenge is the politics of it. You know, very early on in this business, somebody told me that if you ever get real concerned about who gets credit for what you're doing, you're not going to be very successful in this business. And I've kind of pinned that on the wall, and that's something I try to think about every day. You know, you have to stop and take a breath now and then to look back on some of those. And when I look back over nearly 3 decades, it's pretty hard for me to even fathom and believe some of the accomplishments, not that I've done, but accomplishments that communities have done where I've been able to work and manage and kind of lead from the back of the room. You know, you're right, I don't like to be out in front. I like to be in the back of the room and help other people be successful, and that's what's been fun about this. Get your ego in check. You're going to be a lot more successful if you're not concerned about who's getting credit for doing things. Give the community credit. You know, let some of the politicians take credit. They will anyway. And those sort of things will be a good guide for you. If you're really concerned about your mission of growing jobs, growing capital investment, making your community richer and lifting your economy, you're going to be very successful. I think we've become more professional, if I can use that term. When I started in this business, we did a lot of what we like to call smokestack chasing or big game hunting, and you know, it was getting on a plane every morning and going to Atlanta or Dallas or Chicago and knocking on doors, and that was really basically the job. And over time, we have become much more comprehensive than that. You know, now we're concerned about what kind of school system we have, what kind of city government we have, what kind of county and state government we have. And it's kind of grown legs, and economic development has had an impact in basically everything in the community. And we've been involved in all of those things. So it's really taken a turn toward professionalism in the time that I've been in the business. It's getting to be more and more so all the time, probably not where it needs to be. When When I first started in this profession, it was kind of, I'm gonna guard mine and not let the other guy know what I'm doing. But there's been more shared techniques, more shared things that communities are doing. Our community actually once a year goes on what we call a benchmark visit to another community to see what they're doing better than we are and getting ideas that we can bring back home. I don't think you would have seen that 15, 20 years ago. We have the opportunity through chambers of commerce and through economic development organizations to join a lot of professional development associations. And IEDC, especially since the merger of QED and the American Economic Development Council, has probably risen to the top and stands head and shoulders above all of those associations in being able to bring news, training, education, and new techniques to this profession. And while I belong to several of those organizations, IEDC is the priority, and it's actually the top organization of any of those. iPhone, computer, so on. I'm going to show my age a little bit. I remember getting the first PC. I think it was a 286 or something like that. We put it on a table in a room, and our staff just kind of walked around it and looked at it for a while, afraid to touch it. And we've evolved so much since then. Now with a cell phone and an iPad or a laptop, you have 24/7 accessibility, 365 days a year, and those of us that are successful in this business work that way. You have a lot of pride in what you do in the communities, but I've had a good experience with people working on staff. I can look back and mentored 3 people to become certified economic developers and helped kind of push them down that pathway, and they've been successful. There are a few CEOs of organizations around the country that started out working on a staff with me, and I feel a great deal of pride and a great deal of responsibility for having done that. And that's in addition to the things that you help communities accomplish as you go along. I got into this business quite by accident, and as I think back about people who have worked for me in various places around the country that are still in this profession, they got into this business by accident. One of the first guys that came to work for me on staff was a former publisher of a small town newspaper. Another guy was an account executive in the finance division of Boeing. And I was with Bell Telephone, and then I managed a congressional campaign. There's no, and there still isn't today, I don't believe, a clear track if somebody in the 10th grade decides they want to be an economic developer. There's not a real clear track like being a lawyer or being a CPA or being a doctor. That may be the thing that IEDC works on in the next few years is creating that pathway to a career.